Hi, this is your Magic Cast, where we're going to talk about magical experiences and oddities from our own gods. In today's episode, Goblins and Other Domestic Spirits. Namaste, I'm Dana, and today I want to talk about something that happens quite often in our homes. Who hasn't lost their keys some morning in the middle of the rush? Or do you store a jacket in the closet and it appears in the bathroom, for example? Well, in Colombian folklore, we would normally talk about goblins or elves. Maybe in your country they are known differently, and that is what we will talk about today. Magical entities that inhabit your home, according to different mythologies. In this big wide world, grandparents have always talked about how they received nightly help from beings that worked while they slept, and everything was done at dawn. Fairy tales also put them on stage. For example, the story The Shoemaker and the Goblins, compiled by the Grimm brothers, brings us to the mythical entities that helped to raise the honor of the decayed shoemaker in exchange for some small clothes that his wife ended up sewing them as a token of gratitude for the economic abundance that they helped them to generate. In Colombia, we have a couple of different ideas of goblins or elves. One refers to tiny men who start making mischief when they see that the inhabitants of the house are in a very tense moment and they lack of order. So, to attract the attention, they start changing objects from place to place to place to place. And I say this in my very own voice because there are days when I get messy and I lose the scissors in the kitchen and they appear days later with my mind at ease on the TV table or even on the altar for no apparent reason. Then I connect the dots with my husband Agdale and we both understand why did it happen. And by the way, he's a super fan of Druidism and all Celtic mythology, and I say that I'm the glorious one that I live with the eldest elf ever. Okay, now let's move on with the other Colombian image of goblins. And I took this story from the Bogota IDRD blog, which refers to a father worried about his daughters. His couple daughters weren't sleeping well. The girls told him that there was a man who was sitting next to their bed and pinching them, but when they turned on the light, there was no one there. The upset father called the parish priest, who sent them to confession, and it was worse. Lot worse, because the goblin kept biting both of them all night long. So, a neighbor who heard about it recommended that they leave a tiple on the table in the room where the daughters rested when they could. So let me explain further. A tiple is like a guitar with 12 strings, with a sweeter and sharper sounds than the guitar itself. It's pretty common to hear it when you play bambuco or pasillo or something from the inside side of the country. So the father knew about this and he said, "Really?" And the neighbor started saying, "Yes, Bessie, believe me, it scares the goblins away." So they listened to him and the girls went to the living room. At night, the goblin arrived and saw the tiple playing alone. The character went away frightened, and a lot later, the daughters felt the tiple was still playing. It was strange, a tiple that no one was playing. When dawn broke, silence reigned, and the tiple disappeared, just like the goblin. Now they say that goblins are linked to the spirit of the earth, and they are quite playful, that they like sweets, and if you offend them, because they are also very capricious, they're able of disturbing the peace of the children who live in the houses. And since the eyes of the world are put on Ukraine, it's well worth reviewing the Slavic mythology that brings us to the hairy figure of the Domovoy, the guardians of the hearts. It is said that they like clean spaces, animal, young children, and quiet homes. But if visitors come to disturb the place and the peace as well, the Domovoy will chase them away in such a way that they will not return. In Ukraine, it is believed that the eldest person who died after building a house becomes the Domovoy itself. Now, taking a look higher up on the European map, the Aybaras of the Viking people took the form of a rooster with a tail of fire to bring gold and food to the family that received them. The problem is they stole them from elsewhere. So you can imagine the trouble is everywhere. Let's take a look at German kobolds. They also like to live in fireplaces and be near the fire. And if they are fed with food that pleases them, they find lost things and keep away household pests. Mind you, if they are not pleased with the family's attitude, you can take a look and find scratch walls. Now let's go back to the highest part of the European walls. This name sounds delicious to me personally. Brownies or brownies are Scottish leprechauns that do housework or help in the fields during the night. Think of a leprechaun that you casually, and you can put a lot of quotation marks on this word, lives on milk, oatmeal flakes, and honey on the side of the stove, just for plain gratitude. But if the brownie discovers or feels that you did it on purpose to pay him, you will lose sight of him for the rest of your days. And it is said that the same thing will happen if you try to name it, because they have an awful mood. For God's sake. If you look closely, all of these creatures share at least one meeting point at home, the stove or the place where it's the hottest. I'm going to explain a little more about the origin of this curious subject right now. In the houses of ancient times, families gathered around the spot with firewood that illuminated the space. That is, the bonfire, the hearth, or the campfire itself. These words have in common an etymological Latin root, which is focus. And from the word fire, it had always been said that fire purifies anguish, revives the spirit, strengthens the will, and protects from darkness. With fire, we prepare food, light candles and incense, warm ourselves when it's cold, and find a form of inspiration in the midst of our darkness of thought. Years ago, I read that a candle was able to connect in a single object, the strength of the circle of the elements, the earth in the wick, the kerosene of beeswax, the water when the candle melts, the air that keeps the flame alive, and the fire that illuminates the environment. The fifth element is provided by you, my dear listener, which is your spirit that lives and renews itself every single day. To tie it all together, the goblins and other household spirits mentioned here are linked with a deep desire to maintain an inner order amidst the chaos that seems to prevail in the external world. Whether you see them or not, it's a matter of perhaps less interest than the experience that you have had. They are the power of the spirit of the earth that wants to illuminate your inner order. Let me know in the comments if you had any weird situations with these characters. So, thanks you so much for listening, and we look forward to see you next time on Magic Cast. Take care. Namaste. Ciao, ciao.